All right, we should be live, Mr. Lance.
Cool. So, what's going on, everybody? Glad you made it back for another one of these Q&As with me and Robert. And Robert, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today, and we've talked about this a couple of times, but I want to start off with how important it is that you keep your WordPress sites up to date. And uh, ourselves, I mean, you had your WordPress site go down yesterday. I'm having troubles with different stuff in my computers today and yesterday. And the truth is that no matter how cautious you are with your websites, with your computers, with whatever is going on, you need to have a backup and a plan B. But more importantly, you have to stay up to date with all of the software that's going on. And I think what so many people don't realize, we see stuff on the help desk where people have their WordPress sites locked down, except they're running 4 versions old of WordPress. Or they've got their websites all locked down and all secure the way that the WordPress guys say to do it, except they're running old plugins that have known exploits on it. And so, one of the things I want to talk about, first of all, is I mean, are people just wasting their time locking down their WordPress sites if they don't keep everything up to date? I mean, let's just start there.
I think they might be, and I think that I mean it's like how out of date are we talking, right, Lance? Because if you have a WordPress site that's a few months old, like I guess that's okay, but once you're getting back to like 2 years, 3 years, I mean, number one, I don't like who knows like how many old little holes been found in WordPress, how many holes in different plugins. But then once you're getting a couple years out of date, then I'm not even sure if things are just gonna start breaking on their own. And so yeah, like, I'm definitely not saying that people should be like a week up to date. Like it's okay, I think, to let your WordPress site go maybe a couple of months out of date. It wouldn't be the end of the world. Just like if your site goes down for a few hours, I mean, it'd be great if it didn't go down. But I mean, if things are a little not quite up to perfection, that's not the end of the world. But I think that once your WordPress site is more than a few years out of date, that's really, I think, a bad thing. That's really in the danger zone.
And just to bring everybody up to speed, I know we've talked about this on our podcast and on different trainings that we've done before. Why is, WordPress is this thing called open source, right? Which means that anybody can go look at the source code. And because of that, why is it unique about when they find exploits, right? Like backdoors or things that aren't working or things. Why is it more important with WordPress that you get updated because of the way that open source projects handle their code?
It's important because if somebody finds a hole in WordPress, they don't keep it secret. They broadcast it. They not only, I mean, it's one thing where they post it on like all kinds of message boards. WordPress finds out about it. That's one thing. But there are also whole databases. Like I don't know of any in particular, but you can do a quick Google search and find like WordPress vulnerabilities, and there are whole web pages where it's like categorized and indexed, and you can literally see like all the holes in WordPress that were discovered, today or in the last couple of days. And some of them are pretty harmless, right? But some of them have come out where there was one where they said, well, if somebody sends this command to your site, then they can actually log in as anyone. Kind of scary, right? Or one thing came out a few months ago where someone said if somebody puts this special code in your site, it'll crash your site. So sometimes things are like kind of harmless, and sometimes things are more harmless, but they completely have it out in the open because with this open source stuff, what that basically means is that anyone can work on WordPress, and there are tens of thousands of programmers who make WordPress better for free, right? So like the company that runs WordPress, they have their own employees, but on top of that, there's all these thousands of people who are making all kinds of little edits and things like that. And because there's just thousands of people all over the world doing this, there's no reason, and it would actually add confusion if they kept these weaknesses a secret. And so when a weakness is found, not only is it spread, not only do people share it and tell each other about it, so that way it can be fixed, but there are a whole like databases, I guess you could say, where there's like tables and lists of all like every WordPress version and every plugin. If a hole is found, it's easy to find that hole because they want to fill the hole, right? They want to fix it.
And I think that this is important for everybody to understand because this is a cultural thing with WordPress and open source software in general, where you would think when a vulnerability is found, that what you'd want to do is keep it as secret as possible so that the bad guys don't know about it. And then you contact the company and hope that they fix it. And a lot of times that's kind of what happens with Microsoft and some other places like that. But when you're talking about open source, first of all, there's good guys and bad guys just pouring through the code all of the time to find vulnerabilities. But as a culture, they post it publicly, and it's encouraged. Not only do they, it's encouraged for them to post it publicly. So again, both the good guys and bad guys know of the vulnerabilities that exist in every version that comes along or has come along in WordPress, and then what's fixed as well.
Right, and I mean, and I'm looking right now in on the other screen at the latest WordPress vulnerabilities. They discovered four today.
Today. So,
Today,
right.
yeah, within the last 3 hours, and I mean, like, from individual plugins, like I'm seeing, like, there's a Lightbox plugin, a gallery plugin, an e-commerce plugin, an email plugin, and yesterday I'm seeing at least there were a handful with like a very popular caching plugin called W3 Total Cache, and so when we say that they find vulnerabilities all the time, we don't just mean oh yeah, like once or twice a year. No, like
Yeah.
every single day because there's thousands of plugins. Every single day, they find this handful of of plugins, and some of them are ones you haven't heard of, but some of them, like we just said, I mean, WP Google Maps, they found a flaw in that one yesterday, which a lot of people use. W3 Total Cache, and also it happens less often, but even individual themes, right? So I mean, you could have a weakness in WordPress itself. You could have a weakness in plugins you run. You could have a weakness in even the themes that you run. So a lot of places to go wrong. And so I think that sort of what you're saying, Lance, is a lot of people geek out on different ways to keep people out of their site, right? But they do all these things at like the front door, but then the back door is wide open.
Wide open. And what's scary to me is that people they get this sense of confidence, right? Like I changed my database extension, I used a good username and password, and they get this false sense of security, and then they don't stay up to date with WordPress. And I know we're guilty a lot of times of not staying up to date on WordPress. And the place where I find us the most guilty is, and maybe people watching this can relate to it, you ever set up a test site? I mean, come on. Have you ever set up a test site? And I know Robert and I set up test sites all of the time, whether we want to test functionality, whether we want to see if something's working, whether we want to make a clone of something to do some work on it. And what happens to us in the past is that we forget these test sites are out there, right? And I'm sure that, we've tried to rein this in over the last little bit, but I'm sure if we went and hunted around, we could find a test site that hasn't been updated in years, because we don't even know it's out there. And I think what's scary about this is, first of all, the older that version gets, the more vulnerabilities they find in it, right? Like if you don't, it's the worst version to be running is something 3 years old or 2 years old, or in a lot of cases even a year old because how quickly it's updated. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that having an old, out of date WordPress on your server or on your account, to the right hacker, not only can you get into that WordPress site, but in a lot of instances, it can give you access to the entire account or the entire server as well. And so, if you wake up one day and all of your sites are gone or all of your sites are hacked, and we've seen this with one of our platinum students, where once they get in, they're in the server and you don't know where they got in, how they got in, why they got in. And the truth was, it was because there was something grossly out of date that they had forgotten about sitting on their server.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of what we hear, like we hear this from not only like I asked some members to write in yesterday to tell us like what they liked about WordPress, what they didn't like about WordPress, and then like coaching clients we've had or people we know. What we hear a lot is that a lot of people don't get hacked just once, right? Because like you said, they got hacked, but they don't even really know how they got hacked. Like imagine if you came home and your front door was locked, your back door was locked, all the windows were closed, but then the inside was just totally messed up, right? And you said, "Oh my gosh, I got broken into. I don't know how. I guess I'll clean up my house." You came back tomorrow, completely ransacked again, and that's what's happening with a lot of people's websites is that they get hacked somehow, right? Suddenly their site's totally changed over, and they really have no idea why. And then they say, okay, well, I guess I booted them out, and I guess they're gone now. I guess they won't be back. They go up right along and they continue, making content, customizing the design, doing all these money making things. Then a few months later, they get hacked again, and that's kind of a scary place to be. In that a lot of times once you get hacked, then you get hacked over and over again, and a lot of the times with these vulnerabilities that are called, there's like a little way in, right? So maybe there's a flaw in one of the WordPress plugins you might use where someone can upload a file, right? Well, if they can upload a file, that means they can install whatever plugin they want, or maybe they can create a new user in your WordPress site. And we've noticed a lot of that. Like, one thing that everyone should do just for fun is
Yes.
choose a random site of yours, or maybe like your favorite site, and log in, and just there's like a users tab, and just make sure that there are no other users in there, because and this was like maybe like 5-6 years ago. I logged into my blog robertplank.com, and there were like 10 users added, and luckily like they weren't able to do anything, but somehow some little weakness in that super old version of WordPress all those years ago, there were 10 users, and I went and just clicked in and deleted them. And so a lot of times there's one little flaw, right? They can make one user, they can upload one file, and then because they made that one user, now they can use some other little hack to get it bigger and bigger. And next thing you know, they've taken over WordPress. Next thing you know, they've been able to log into your FTP and your cPanel, and they're checking your email. So it's like one little way in, then they can not only get in bigger and bigger, but they might actually come back after you think you've gotten rid of them. So lots of scary stuff.
And I mean, and in a minute, I got an alarm going off out there that I'm gonna have to jump out and fix really quick. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about too is, one of our frustrations was it got to the point where two things were happening. One, we didn't even know what we had out there. And I mean, we've got different servers, we've got different accounts. We literally couldn't keep track of the test sites, the real sites, the other sites. And so that was the first thing. I mean, we literally couldn't just keep track of things. And so what we did was we started building spreadsheets, which, I mean, those got out of date. That was a good idea for like the hour we sat down and made the spreadsheet, but then it just got out of date before we could do anything with it. And then the second thing is it became this point where we spent hours, literally hours, like updating WordPress, updating plugins. Like, oh, there's a new vulnerability. We run that plugin. Now I got to go log into WordPress, update it. And you think, like, you think, well, it's fine. I only got 10 sites. I can just log in each day, check to see if there's updates, update them, update the plugins, and then move on. And that sounds easy in theory until you realize, I mean, how long does it really take to you to load up your WordPress site and log in? Maybe a minute, maybe a minute. You log in, then you have to check for the updates. You got to look through, maybe another minute. Then you have to go through and update the plugins, update the WordPress. I mean, you're talking about even somebody that's fast, 5-10 minutes, depending on how many updates per site. Now, all of a sudden, you're talking about a couple hours easy a day with just a small amount of sites. Now you multiply that by, first of all, can you even find the sites? But second of all, if you have a large number of sites, and I'm talking 10, 20, 30, which we know is not unusual given, our user base and what we use. Now you're talking about this is almost a full-time job, just checking to see if there's updates, if there are, updating it, and then just logging into each one. And I mean, this became a real hassle for us, which was one of the reasons we started looking for a solution, which we didn't find anything good.
Yeah, we for sure didn't. I mean, after that, and I mean, because it's like our progression is pretty much like it started off as just trying to go by the seat of our pants, right? Like we have these WordPress sites, and if we happen to come across one, if I happen to log into one, well, sure, I'll log in, and usually I'll have to go and find my password, or have it stored in like a RoboForm or a LastPass kind of deal. I log in, and then I have to go and I say, okay, click update WordPress. Great, that's done. Click and then oops, gotta find my FTP information, right? Then click and update the plugins. Okay, great, that's done. And then the themes are always out of date. Even some of the themes that I had on there but weren't activated. And I'm like, sure, might as well be up to date, and then go and check and make sure that the site's all up and running. So I mean, really, if you think about it, like if you have to log in and then go into the updates and then click this and click that. I mean, maybe even 20, 30 clicks per site. I mean, you always think, I'm just going to log in and update like 20, 30 clicks per site, right? So it's almost like that first level, right, was just whenever we thought of it, fine, I'll go in and I'll update that site. And then that led to, I guess, level two or step two or attempt number two, where then we had that spreadsheet where we try to say, okay, like here's site one, site two, site three, site four, and then I make a column for, is WordPress up to date? Are these plugins up to date? And things like that. And it was just like, I just have this huge spreadsheet, and it's like this huge thing, and it said, okay, I checked this one, I've got all these to go, and like you said there, Lance, like if it takes even a few minutes, and like, okay, great, if I want to have five things checked off, that's an hour of work, and then I might get to the end, and then something else needs updating, I have to start all over again. So
And that was the most frustrating part for me is every time I'd look at that spreadsheet and start to update something, I could never do it in one day. And then by the time I finished, there was something else. I mean, it was a constant, never ending cycle.
yeah, so we went from just no plan to the spreadsheet, and then I guess like the third step in my process was then I actually tried some. I guess there were some of these different tools on where you could go in one place and manage all your sites at once. Sounded great, so I tried one, and they wanted me to like think of a password and put it on like the main site, and then copy that password to other sites. And to be honest, I just clicked it. Or what I did was like I think I like used the wrong password, right? Like I put one in one and one in the other, and it still let me do everything to the site. So it was kind of scary in that it's like, okay, well, like this thing is supposed to like make my life easier, but then if I have this thing that's all on my site, literally anyone could do anything to my site because I had the passwords on one end and the password on the other end wrong. So I was thinking, if the wrong password lets me in, anyone can get in. So then I didn't use that one, and then I looked into this really popular one. I think that it was like the most used at the time, and I joined like this monthly fee, this monthly site, and I added even just a couple of sites. And every time I logged in, I'd have to sit and wait for 5 minutes. Literally every time I logged in, I'd have to sit and wait. And then when I clicked on this button to update the plugins on our sites, like half the time it would work, half the time it didn't. So then what ended up happening with that particular tool, and maybe they're better now, I'm not sure, but that particular tool, I'd first of all have to log in and then just go and leave and get a cup of coffee, right? Because I had to wait 5 minutes, but I didn't want to accidentally close the browser tab or forget it was open, so I had to just set aside 5 minutes just to log into this site. And then I would click to update, and then I really didn't trust it because it didn't work some of the time, so I'd have to actually log into those sites just to make sure that this tool that was supposed to save me time actually worked. So out of all those headaches, and maybe some people watching or listening have sort of gone through the same process, we thought to ourselves, well, there has to be a better way, and so we made this tool that does it for us.
And what I love about Website Remote, and we've got some cool stuff that, even people that have it don't know about yet that we'll probably talk about here a little bit today. But what's awesome about it is it literally lets you keep track of all of your sites. So you enter it in, and then you can, from one dashboard, you can update everything. You can update all plugins. You can update WordPress. You can pick and choose, or you can just update everything. But then you can also see, what's on each site. You can activate and deactivate plugins. I mean, you can literally control and manage all of your sites from one single dashboard. And now, what I want to talk about, and I mean, if you haven't checked it out, definitely go. I mean, for 99 cents, you can try it out on your sites at websiteremote.com/trial. So give it a try, see how it works. And I mean, even if you're watching this stream and you want to try it out, and at the end of 7 days, you decide you don't like it, just hit up our help desk. We'll even give you back your 99 cents. I mean, we don't care. This is the tool that you need to be using, and it's hard for us to describe how it works. You got to see it and then compare it to what you've got. So again, it doesn't. I don't think it says you can get your money back on the trial, but if you're watching this, you get the 99-cent trial and you don't like it, or it wasn't worth 99 cents. I mean, let us know at the help desk. We'd be happy to refund that to you as well. But the one thing that I think that we get asked about the most and that people sort of get nervous about is there's one feature so I can see all of my sites. I can see what's on them, but I can also from there, if I want to make a new post or I want to update my sales page or I want to do something from my dashboard, I can click a link on the site next to the site that I want to go modify or do whatever. And it literally opens up a new window and logs me into WordPress, right? Like logs me into the site. And what I want you to talk about really quickly is because you kind of mentioned the storing of passwords and doing all of this different stuff. And when you first showed me this, I mean, it scared me a little bit because I'm like, Robert, we can't be storing people's passwords. Like, I don't even want to know about it. I don't want any of this stuff. So, can you kind of talk about, first of all, how secure is that part of it? And are we storing passwords and how does that work? I mean, you don't have to talk about the coding part per se, but just kind of how does that piece work?
Okay, well, the way that piece works is basically there's like this super long thing that the super I guess you could call it password, but like a super long thing that's stored on your end, right? And we also have a copy of that. And so basically what happens is if it matches, then you can run the commands on your site, right? Including updating the plugins, adding plugins, but it also allows you to click one button and log in. And like you said, Lance, at first it sounded scary, right? Because we thought like all these different things. Like what if we store these passwords and somehow that gets out? That would be really bad, right? But the good news is that we don't store any passwords, and basically like I mean, okay, so usually what people do, like if they're brand new to WordPress, they'll make a WordPress site and they'll say, well, I'm gonna make my password test, right? And that's really bad because there's like this list of like the top 100 guest passwords, and basically when you hear about these bots that are like hitting all these sites and trying to log in thousands of different combinations, they're just trying like those top 100 passwords like test 123 admin. They're trying those top ones because that's the best bang for their buck, right? They would rather go and try just those top 100 passwords and hit all these sites knowing that maybe they'll get one or two out of 100, and then that way they can just get all these sites that they hack, they take over, right? And so first of all, have a long password. But then the next thing is, so then you say, okay, well, I'm gonna, you know, name it like my dog's name and like the date of my anniversary or something. And then, well, the problem with that is, first of all, like maybe some people can guess that, but then people say, well, okay, I've got to remember this thing and these numbers, so I can't remember like 50 passwords in my head. I can only remember one, so I'm going to use the same password everywhere. And that's really bad, right? Because if one site gets hacked, then now they can get into your email. Now they can get into your domain names and like unregister your domains or move them off, or maybe they can get into your Skype account. Maybe they can log into your Facebook. So like all these scary things, right? So don't use the same password for everything, right? Use different passwords. And we like to use password management tools like LastPass, where you can create this big, huge, long password, and even you don't know it, right? And you can log into your computer with a master password, but all of your passwords are stored. That way, all of your passwords are super big, garbled up things that no one's going to guess, and your password is different. So if someone figures out one of your passwords for like your Twitter password or something, which hopefully they don't, but if they somehow hack your Twitter, they don't also hack your Skype. They don't also hack your Gmail. They don't also hack your WordPress. And so the next thing that happens is that we've noticed that even when people use these password manager tools, they're always just like, okay, well, did I remember to save it, or what's my master password to log in? So even that's sort of an issue. And then what if you have different people logging in on your site, and maybe you changed your password on one computer, but then it didn't go out to your other LastPass stuff. Like, so it's sort of on the right track, but not quite there. And so basically website remote says that if um, if if it's your account, right? If you're actually logged into your website remote account and you click on this button to log in, then it gives you just like this one-time login, right? So when you log in a website remote, there's like a lock button. So it's what's called SSL. It's encrypted and all that stuff. And a big problem with people logging into your WordPress site is that even if you use this password manager, big long password or something like that, if you log into your WordPress site and you're on public Wi-Fi, or you're at Starbucks or McDonald's or an airport or something, and there's no closed lock on your WordPress site, then someone can just read that. So and there's all kinds of like browser plugins and Android apps that if they just have their phone running on the same Wi-Fi as you, it'll just pick up every password that it finds. And so what's good about the way that we do things with Website Remote is that it asks to log in, and even if someone happens to see, because like they won't, like somebody won't see even on public Wi-Fi what you're doing on website remote. That's encrypted. But then when you go from your website remote dashboard into your actual WordPress site, like when you log into your site, someone might be able to see that, but they'll only see the one, what's called like the one-time password, right? So they see what you use to get into your own site that one time, but then it throws it away. So even if someone is sort of trying to, I don't know what an analogy would be, Lance. Like someone's like tailgating you, right? It's like you're driving the car into the parking lot with one of those gates, and they're like trying to like bunny hop their way like right behind you. Well, that's not going to work because the code that you didn't see that happened in the background, the code that let you in, that secret code is only going to work for you that one time. So even if they saw the exact code you used to get in, now it's thrown away. Now someone coming in after you, it will not let that person in, if that makes sense. And so I mean, lots of stuff there, but basically we don't store passwords. It clicks and it makes a one-time code. It's called, where you can log into the site that one time. But then if you want to go back and log into the site again, then you just have to log into website remote again. But it's great because there's no username transmitted. There's no password transmitted. It just, if the code matches, then you log in, and that's great for, I mean, for all those different reasons.
And this is functionality that's built into WordPress, right? Like this isn't even something you made up. This is something that's in WordPress that a lot of people don't know about, where you can talk between blogs this way. So it's secure, it's taken care of by them.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't want to get too technical, but yeah, basically, there's a way in WordPress to just instantly l- log in and become a different user in that WordPress site. And we use this. I think there's like a free plugin called like WP Masquerade or something, and we use that for our membership sites, because you might say, well, if we have like say membership cube or something, and say if Paul Todman's a member, and I say, well, I just want to kind of log in as Paul Todman and see what he sees, we can do that. We can see the list of our members and choose a member and just suddenly like almost like become them. And so yeah, website remote does that, but just for you as the administrator of the site. You click the button, and now you're logged in as the person who can do everything on your site. One click, so you don't have to remember passwords. No one can see the password that you're using, and I mean, you can just, as long as you're on website remote, you can get to your other websites. You just one click log in. You don't have to figure out what was the login for this site or that site. You just one click log in, you're in.
And so I want to talk about now something that we're in the process that's rolling out now slash shortly slash has for some people. And that is, the one thing, and this has been, we've got a lot of visions about website remote, a lot of stuff that we want to roll out. And one of the problems from talking to people, from handling our own help desk, from working with clients, is that we're all out there buying themes, buying plugins, buying all of this different stuff all of the time. And then we'll go, shit, what was it that I bought? Right. Like, and so we end up, so we've gone through all kinds of different strategies for keeping track of the stuff we've bought, from the folders on our drives to Amazon S3 to Google Drive. And just like the spreadsheet, we're good about it for a while, but pretty soon we lose it. So one of the things that is rolling out to website remote users currently is the ability to upload any plugins, whether they are premium bot plugins, whether they are paid plugins, whether they are free plugins, upload them to just your own account in website remote, to what's called the website remote cloud, so that you can store, literally keep a library of all of your plugins, all of your themes, all of the stuff that you have in your one dashboard, so that you never can lose them again. And we've always talked about, between you and I, the idea of wanting what we've always called the library or the repository, because a lot of times you'll go buy something, or you'll add something to one of our websites, and then I'll go, "Hey Robert, I need something that does this," and you'll go, "Oh, I can't remember what it was called. It does this," and then we always have to go hunt around and use it. But now what we've got, because you and I share a website remote account, is we have the ability to upload all of the plugins, whether you use one, I use one, you add it, I add it to our cloud library of WordPress plugins.
Yeah, and yeah, so like for example, one thing that I wanted to do a while ago was like install this plugin that was like to add these things called Google fonts to your web pages. And so like in the past couple of years, like you guys might have noticed that suddenly like the fonts on websites suddenly got really cool looking, right? Like it wasn't just like the typewriter font or something. Like suddenly there's all these different things. And so there's a plugin, and I couldn't even tell you what it is. Like I think there's one called like Google Fonts or WP Google Fonts, but like there's like five plugins that do this that are almost named the same thing. And so that's the situation that we find ourselves in, is sometimes I have to be like, oh yeah, let me go and log into my site, let me see like what that plugin was, and I just get really confused. And so and I mean, like you said, like sometimes there are premium plugins, right? Like maybe you bought a premium theme or premium plugin, or you bought backup creator, paper template, member genius, plugin dashboard, something like that. And you don't quite remember, you don't want to quite grab it every single time you want to put it on a site. And so that's where the library or the cloud comes in, where we have an area where you can upload, and this is live now. You can upload your favorite plugins up to a special little area online, up to the cloud, right? And so what that means is, let's say that in your past couple of years you've bought like 10 paid plugins, and sometimes you want to put those plugins on other sites. So we have this area, and I'll show a real quick look at it right now. So we have this area where you can see things that you've uploaded, and these are actual files. These are plugin files that we have in the cloud. And so what I can do is I can first of all say, well, let me go and let me grab some plugins that I've bought in the past. So I can click on this choose files, and I can grab, and I think I have like backup creator on here. So I can upload, for example, the backup creator plugin, right? And it's uploading to the cloud. And then now if we wait a second, then now we can see that backup creator, we just added this. So now we have three plugins at our disposal. And these are three plugins that, maybe some of them are free WordPress plugins, but I can never quite, remember the exact wording of it. No big deal. Now I have it in my special list of plugins. And then one of these, backup creator, is a plugin that we wouldn't even be able to find in the WordPress directory, because this is not a free plugin. And so now we have these plugins that are up on the internet, and then I can say, okay, I want to install these on some of my sites. So now I can go to install these plugins, and now I can see that if I have maybe I want to add backup creator, maybe I want to add plugin organizer, and I want to add this WP Google Speed Insight, and I can just say, well, I'm going to add these three plugins. I'm going to add it to maybe like my membership newbie blog, and I can click on one thing. And so what I just did was I uploaded a plugin including backup creator, and I put it in this staging area, right? And then I put it on a site called membershipnewbie.com/blog123, and now I can log in if I want to, and I can look at the plugins that are on there, and now I can see that the backup creator plugin that we literally just uploaded, we grabbed it off our hard drive, put it on the internet. Now it's on our WordPress site, and if I scroll through, I can find the plugin organizer plugin that I just added in there, and there was something else, maybe performance check or something. But the point is that this solves a lot of your problems, because it solves a lot of our problems too, right? So even if it's a free plugin and you don't quite remember it, and you don't want to have that special folder on your hard drive, no big deal. We have an area in Website Remote now called the cloud, where we give you a gigabyte of storage, which is, I mean, enough to store probably thousands of different plugins, right? But we give you that space to store your favorite plugins that maybe you don't quite remember how to find them for free, and maybe they are paid plugins that before you might have lost because maybe it was on that old hard drive or something. Well, no big deal. Now it's in your website remote area. You won't lose it. You can find it. You can push it onto any of your sites. One site or 100 sites, doesn't matter. You can put it out there.
And two things that I want to point out right here. First of all, it looks a little scrunched on Robert's screen because he's got it sized down so that you guys can actually see it. So it's more spread out and spaced better when you look on a normal size screen. The second thing is that I want to bring up is that, a lot of you are maintaining sites for other people, or you're like us where you've got membership sites and sales letter sites and opt-in sites. And what you can do is you can create groups of different types of sites. So you can see, when Robert was in there, and I don't know if it's still up because I know we've got that delay, but there's like front end sites. We've got them listed by different hosts. And so you can group your sites any way that you want. And a site can belong to multiple groups. So you might say, you might have a Liquid Web hosting account and a HostGator account. Well, what you can do is you can put all of your sites in groups of those two things. So you can say these plugins don't work on Liquid Web, these don't work on HostGator. So you can then go in and say, I just want to see all of the sites on HostGator. And then you can say, I want to put this plugin just on my HostGator sites. But you can go even further than that, because then you can say, I want to get all, I don't care what server they're on. I want to see all of my membership sites and I want to push this out to all of those. And with one click, you can install plugins to all of your sites and group them. And I think the important part is that a site can belong to multiple groups. So you can basically create views of this client, this type of site, this host, and you can look at it even between groups. So I want all the sites that are on GoDaddy and belong to Robert Plank. I want all sites that are membership sites on GoDaddy and belong to Lance Tomashiro. And then I want to update those in different ways. So use these groups. And I think that the groups, we haven't really talked a lot about it, but it's one of the most powerful things that we've got inside of Website Remote, especially when you realize that you can look at different views of the groups and then push updates to those sites based on the grouping that you're looking at.
Yeah, and just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I'm going to clear some of these just so that we don't have a lot to sort of sift through here. So I'll kind of start from a little bit of a blank slate. So like you said, Lance, we might say that some of these sites are I mean we say like this is like a Robert site or something, and then we might say that we want to have like maybe we have some sites on Liquid Web, right? And so we can just say that, okay, well on this one, well, we have two websites on HostGator, and then what I can do is I can go into this Liquid Web thing, and I can say, okay, well, I want to say that maybe I have these two sites are hosted on Liquid Web. I want to make a record of that, right? So I check on these, and I can log in. I can say that Liquid Web group. I want to add this to the group, and then if I look at my groups again, now I can see, okay, great. Well, I have two sites on HostGator, and I have two sites on Liquid Web, but then there's also somewhat more of an overlap because I can also say, well, I have these four sites that are my front end sites. And you can literally categorize this in any way, like you said, Lance. You can say, well, these five sites are my client sites. These five sites are my membership sites. These 10 sites are Lance's sites. These two sites are Robert's sites. And so this way you can sort of just have these like collections of sites, and I can just say, okay, well, if I'm looking at say like my Liquid websites, I can click on that, and I only have to focus on just these two here, right? And so what that means, I can see, okay, well, just out of these two, I can see what sort of WordPress I'm running. I can see what sort of theme they're running. I can see like there's one plugin on here that's out of date. But this way, if you happen to, I mean, even if you have like 10 WordPress sites, that starts to get a little out of control, right? And so this way, if we want to keep things really simple and just look at a couple of sites, we can do that. If we want to say, well, I just want to see what sort of plugins that are on here, then I can narrow it down to just, I can say, let me look at the plugins on just my HostGator site, just those ones that I've sort of put in that group. And I can say, okay, great. Now this is something I can manage a lot easier. Maybe I can click and I can say, well, I only want to look at my Liquid websites. Well, it looks like this table is a lot smaller because, well, I only have one plugin that I need to concern myself with. And so this way we can avoid drinking from the fire hose. We don't have to worry about hundreds of sites. We can look at just a handful of sites, and then we can say, okay, well, so I've grouped some of my sites, right? And maybe I want to just update the sites in this group. I can click on that, and now we don't have to wait around for hundreds of sites to update. We're just focused on this one. And then the other thing you mentioned there, Lance, was if I want to put a plugin onto just a few sites and I don't want to go check, 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 I can just say, I'm going to add a new plugin, okay? And just to make things simple, I'm going to add a plugin that I added before. So maybe we'll say I want to put just Backup Creator. And on the right here, we have these lists of different sites, but I can say, okay, well, I have this one plugin, but I don't want to put it on all the sites, right? Because maybe some are membership sites, some are blogs, some are test sites, some are client sites. I can say, I want to put Backup Creator only on Liquid Web, right? Maybe I just want to run backups on that. So I can just check this group here that says Liquid Web, which contains these two sites underneath. And so I can just say this one plugin, this group that contains these sites within it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean this is so awesome, and I got to say this. But wait, there's more, right? Because this begged the question to us. Once we started grouping our stuff by site, well, the next logical extension was, okay, I'm storing all of these plugins on this cloud, and I can choose them and push them out there and do all of this. The next logical thing for us became, well, I want to categorize my plugins, right? Like when I make an SEO blog, there's only X number of plugins that I use every single time. When I build a dentist site, I use these plugins every single time. When I make a membership site, I use these plugins every single time. And, it sucks to like go build the WordPress site and then go, okay, I need to log into Backup Creator to get Backup Creator. I need to log into Income Machine to get Paper Template. I need to log in and get Member Genius. I got to log into Membership Queue. You're collecting all of this stuff. But equally sucky is that now I got to go into website remote and I got to remember which ones they are. I got to click, 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 and then choose the sites I want to push them to. So I said, Robert, you know what would be awesome is if we changed the way that people thought about plugins. So you've got all of these plugins, but in truth, we use different plugins for different types of sites. So what I said is, how awesome would it be if instead of thinking about types of sites and plugins that go on sites, we create the whole idea of plugin packages, right? And you get to define what your plugin package is. So if you make doctor sites, or you make membership sites, or you make opt-in pages, you know that you've got three different types. So now what you can do is you can create plugin packages. You can add at any time plugins that you want to those packages. And even more cool than that is you can deploy packages to sites. So you can create a new site. You can say, this is a membership site. So deploy my my membership site plugin package to the site. And what's awesome about this is not only does it push all the plugins you've got stored in your package out to the site, but in one click, it installs them all, it downloads them all, it activates them all, it gets them running. So no more do you have to go like, I want this one, upload, activate. I want this one, upload, activate. No, I go, these are the 10 plugins I use on this type of site. I grab that package, I say push it to this site, and it goes out, installs, activates, and is done one click.
Yeah, and just to make sure that everyone is on the same page here, I'm going to kind of open up a Word document because what we were showing before is, you might have one plugin and you install it onto one site, right? And I think we installed like Backup Creator onto a site called like Blog 123, right? So that's pretty simple. And even just doing that alone, that saves you the hassle of logging into a site, figuring out a password, and even saves you the one-click log thing because in Website Remote you can say this plugin. I want to put it on that site, right? And it can be a free plugin like we showed you. It can be a plugin that you uploaded. But then what we showed you after that was we said, well, you can have your one plugin and you can put it onto 10 different sites, right? And you can have that one plugin and you can go click, 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 click and go down the list or select all your sites or whatever. And so, for example, we can put Backup Creator on our Webinar Crusher site, on our Paper Template site, on our Membership Newbie site, and we can do that. And then to sort of save you all those clicks of clicking on 10 different sites, then we can say that like a group groups contain lots of sites, right? So groups is lots of sites. So you might have one group have two sites, or one group might have 12 sites or whatever. And so that way you can say, well, this one plugin backup creator, I want to put it on these 12 sites. And I don't really want to have to remember which sites every time. I just want to say this group of sites, one plugin, and put it on a bunch of sites, right? And then we thought to ourselves, well, okay, now we can also click and we can say, for example, add 5 of our favorite plugins to one site, or we could add 5 of our favorite plugins to 10 sites, or we could add 5 of our favorite plugins into a group which is really 10 sites, right? And we thought, well, couldn't we sort of like complete the circle here and say, well, let's give people the ability to package plugins together. And that way you could say, I want to make my one package, and maybe it's like my membership site package, and that contains 5 plugins, right? So I can click a button and I can say, I want to put this one package, which might have 5 plugins, and maybe I want to put this one package onto one site. If I make a new site, I say, well, cool, all those goofy plugins I use for a free blog, like for caching, for SEO, for security, for the Google sitemap stuff, I'm going to forget all of those. How about I just package those all up? So if I make a new free blog, choose the package, put it on that one site. But then you can say, okay, that one package, I want to put it on 5 sites. Or even cooler, you can say that one package can go put into that one group. So I can have like 10 membership sites. I can have the membership site package, which contains all these little plugins, and I can say this collection of plugins, I want to put it on that collection of sites. Does that sort of make sense, Lance?
Yeah, and I mean, this is going to change the way that people store um, and deploy their plugins. But I think more importantly, it's what we've always wanted, right? We wanted a library of all of our plugins. I mean, we all are buying stuff all of the time and we can't keep track of them. And the one thing I do want to point out, though, is that just like uh, mul- the same website can belong to multiple groups, the same plugin can belong to as many packages as you want. So, for example, we would probably put Backup Creator on every site that we deploy. So, in every single package that we make, we can put Backup Creator on. However, we would only put Member Genius on sites that are membership sites. So that only goes in the membership package. And again, it stores it, it makes it literally a library, and you can group these things however you want to get access to them at every time. This is ground changing. So, Robert, I don't know if you're ready to show this last thing or not that we've
Yeah.
been working on, but hold on, there's one more thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, and so and so yeah, so I really like the way that you explain that, Lance, in that that many times you might just have like the bare basics of plugins, right? The bare essential plugins. Maybe you always like to have some certain security plugin, right? And maybe you always like to have a certain search engine plugin. But then, like you said, sometimes you might want to use a membership plugin, but other times you might not, depending on the site. But my guess is that every time that you guys set up a membership site, you probably use the same plugin, right? You probably use your favorite plugin, and so that's sort of where these packages come in. And I think that I really like the way that you thought about that, Lance, and that you might check the box for the bare basics of plugins, and then you might check a different box for, okay, I want the bare basics plus the membership site stuff, or I want the bare basics plus the blog stuff, or the bare basics plus the client sites. And so basically, what we do is, and I'll start from scratch here. So, and this is again also live in Website Remote. So if you're just getting a trial account today, you have access to this. If you've been with Website Remote for the past year, you still have access to this. And what we can do is I can make this new package name, and again, name it whatever you want. But I like to sort of name mine like the Essentials. So I can make a package for that. And remember, a package is a collection of plugins, right? So we can have 10 plugins in here, and those are the 10 plugins that are the essential plugins. Or if we have a membership site, you might say, well, I want to have the actual plugin that controls the membership site, and I want to have a plugin that lets me draw tables on the site, right? Or something like that. So maybe we'll say, I want to make the membership site package. So I add a new package there. Okay, so we can edit this package for the essentials, and we can say that I want to add some plugins. What's great about the packages is that you can mix and match. So here's what I mean: is I can say, okay, well, I uploaded these, and you said, Lance, that we always like to add backup creator to our stuff, and maybe I'll add this Google Speed thing to our thing. But I can say, okay, well, that takes care of my personal private plugins that I uploaded to the internet in my private area. And by the way, I want to stress that is that we give you a gigabyte of storage on Website Remote. That is your storage, right? No one else is going to see that. That's for your files and all that good stuff. And so we have those on there, and so I can even look at what I made. I can say, okay, well, I added Backup Creator, I added this Google Speed thing into this package, and and here we go. Here are those two plugins. But you know what? That's not going to quite cut it because I want to add in a couple of free plugins. So I'm going to edit the package again, and then I can also, while I was in there, so I could have gone on the cloud, but I can also search for any free WordPress plugin, and it gives me some ideas here as well. So if I say, okay, I want to have an SEO plugin, I'll click on that, and then let's see. So I don't really find anything I want, but maybe I know all-in-one SEO is there. And the good news too is that you only have to set up your package once, right? So I'm going to add that plugin, add an all-in-one SEO pack, and maybe I'll even add what's the other one, Lance? Like Google Sitemaps, right? So maybe I'll add
Google Tag Manager would be one we'd want.
ooh, okay, Tag Manager, and you guys are starting to understand. Like, if we had to first of all do this 10 times, that would suck, and we also had to remember to check for these plugins every single time. That would also suck, right? So we basically we mixed and matched. A couple of these are from our cloud. A few of these are plugins that are available for free. And so now, well, guess what? Now we have these essential plugins, and then maybe if I want to mess around with my membership package, maybe I want to add a table press is one that we add to a lot of stuff. Maybe I want to add subscribe to comments, which is what we add to some of our stuff. And maybe we could even upload like WP Notepad or something if we knew where that was stored. But either way, you guys get the idea, right? We have this group, or this, I shouldn't say group, but this bunch of plugins, right? This is our essentials package. This bunch of other plugins, this is our membership site package. And you might say, okay, that's great, like I can sort of organize my plugins, but it gets really powerful when you can push this to a bunch of sites that you want. And just imagine if you had two packages, maybe there was like 20 plugins times 100 sites. I mean, I don't even like, what would that even be like? 200 clicks when you log in and update and install, it's like 10 clicks. So now we're talking like 2,000 clicks you would have had to do otherwise each and every site. Now you're just making a couple of clicks. We can
If
say,
you could even find all the dang plugins.
yeah, if you can find it, and guess what? If you did, what are you going to do in 6 months when you forgot what you did 6 months ago, right? So even it's better just to have the computer store it, the website store it. That way you don't have to remember anything. And so you might go and log into your website remote account here 6 months later, and you say, okay, well, I want to go and add some plugins to my websites. So I'm going back to this plugins add new area, and it already added all these. So I can say, okay, like there's my packages here, and I can say either I want to add all the essentials, or I can maybe pick and choose some, but let me just add all the essentials and add all the membership sites to this. And if I wanted to keep going, I mean, I could even mix and match stuff from the WordPress directory, but you get the idea. We have these packages. I want the bare basics and I want the membership site stuff, and I can just kind of choose which individual sites I want to push to, or these groups of sites. So I can say, well, for now, let me just try it on the one. So I'm going to add all these plugins to my blog 123. I click on install plugins, and it pushes it all out, right? All those plugins some that I found for free, but Website Remote remembered them for me, so I don't have to go and hunt down that exact plugin that I like. And I've grouped them all together. That way I don't have to remember all these other ones. And maybe one of these, I think one of these plugins maybe wasn't a plugin that I uploaded, maybe. But either way, I clicked on the button and I had all these plugins. I had them in packages, and it added. See, it added like the Google Tag Manager. It added the Table Press. It added the Subscribe to Comments. And I think that one of these in here that I put on, maybe the Backup Creator wasn't a real or maybe I don't know. But either way, we have our plugins, we bunch them together into packages. We have our websites, we bunch them together into groups. So now you can sort of make those high level decisions, right? If you say, okay, I want to put Backup Creator on all my sites. Well, great. You just say Backup Creator and membership newbie. Cool. I do that and it's all on there. If I want to say I want to add all my essential plugins to my front end site just to make sure it's on there, you can do that. So there's definitely something to not only the time saving aspect of not having to go in and log in and update or install every single thing, there's something to bunching your websites together. That way, if you want to put one plugin or a bunch of plugins on a bunch of sites, you can. And there's something to this bunching up of the plugins so that now we're really cooking because we can have tons of plugins and put them on tons of sites, and it's just a huge time saving tool that way.
And I just want to make one point of clarification too, that a plugin can be part of multiple packages. So you can have one plugin, Backup Creator could be part of Essentials and part of um, the membership sites if you want. So a plugin can belong to more than one package. The other thing is, as you're going through this, I'm thinking like, man, if you sold websites or you did a service on like Fiverr that's like, I'll install these 25 packages, these 25 plugins on your site. I mean, it's literally push button, but it even goes one step further, right? Because installing WordPress sucks. And I don't care like if you do it manually, which means you go to wordpress.org, you download WordPress, you FTP it up to your site, you build the database, you do all of that. That sucks. And even to the point now where, it used to be pretty nice. We used to have Fantastico Deluxe where you could just push a button and it would do what we wanted it to do. But now they figured out they can add in all the ads. There's all of those clicks. So what about people that want to build a new website and then maybe build a new website and have essentials and memberships plugins on it?
So that is not quite yet ready.
Okay, but coming, right?
but
Like,
but coming, yes. So
so
basically, we're because we use this and because we have a lot of WordPress sites, like we're always looking for ways that we can shave off all the time. Because I mean, just think about any time that you thought, oh, I'm gonna log into WordPress really quick for 10 seconds, and then you forgot where it was, you forgot your password. Next thing you know, hours wasted. And along the same lines, maybe you want to make a new website, maybe you want to make a test site, or you want to, you have an idea for some kind of membership site or something, and you say, wait a second, like where do I go, or what are all the different things I have to click on to make a new WordPress site? So basically, long story short is we're close to, we're not quite ready yet to show it because we don't want to just give you new things if they're not quite ready. So we're using this ourselves for a little while, but basically we're working on a way to even shortcut the creating of a new site.
so I mean, I hope you guys are seeing the power of this. I mean, whether you are maintaining other people's sites, whether you're a site builder, whether you're maintaining your old sites, if you run one or more WordPress sites for one or more people, you could even put those people into groups. Clients, yourself, your business, your personal. If you run WordPress sites, if you use plugins, if you buy plugins, you need to try out Website Remote. And again, go to websiteremote.com/trial. You can try it for 99 cents for 7 days. And if at the end it's not for you, you don't like it, you didn't think it was worth 99 cents, you don't want to stay with it, let us know. We'll even refund your 99 cents. So it is a free trial. Check it out. This is going to change the way that you keep your WordPress sites. It's going to increase your productivity. You got to try it. It really does literally change everything as far as managing, deploying, securing all of your sites. So go check it out now at websiteremote.com/trial. And if you're a member of Website Remote and you love Website Remote, first of all, I see that there's Paul and Miguel who are here that do. Drop us a testimonial, but if you need it to do something that it doesn't do yet, let us know. This is about you. This is about making the best website management tool that has ever existed anywhere on the internet. We're already close and getting really closer to blowing everybody else out of the water. Go check out websiteremote.com/trial. We'll see you on the inside. You're going to love it. Have a great day.